he picked the wrong family, and not scared of a conflict, and we're not scared. We're not running. We're coming at him.
But it's, again, it just tells the story of it's the evil and the ugliness of people's hearts these days is everywhere.
Some might ask why I ask you all to join us for just 3 search warrants and a seizure of drugs. Well, I think you'll understand that it goes much, much deeper than that. And that's how it culminated on the 22nd of June when we served 3 search warrants, 2 of them on 37th Street and 1 of them on Avenue M, in the Inwood area just outside the city of Winter Haven. But it's a family affair. It's a generational event. We have 3 generations of Rogers who are actively involved in the trafficking and sale of drugs. Now, I continue to hear over and over this false narrative that they're trying to push all across this country, that drugs are low-level, non-violent events, okay? Low-level, non-violent drugs. Well, I think you'll understand that it's not just a low-level, non-violent drug. So, it culminated with a search warrant. These folks aren't new to us. The Rogers family has been around for decades. Now, think about it. Either we began this investigation on November of last year, or we began it 30 years ago. That's right. 37th Street, same area of Inwood, same houses. We have been putting these people in jail and some of them in prison for 3 generations, and they continue to sell drugs. In fact, I'm going to introduce you to at least one of them that we arrested in a major league trafficking wire investigation, wiretap, in 2020 that hasn't even been a trial yet, and I'm going to give you details how we are arresting them once again. But as we go through this, it is important for you to understand that these folks have created death and destruction for many, many families for a very long time. When we did the search warrants, we seized on that particular day 3 pounds of meth, 224 grams of fentanyl. Now, folks, 224 grams of fentanyl is potentially enough to overdose and kill 95,000 people. Did you hear what I said? 95,000 people. We also seized a kilo of cocaine, almost a kilo of MDMA, oxycodone, a 9mm handgun. Imagine a convicted felon with a handgun, right? I mean, that's not anything new to most of you. And a pill press. Where's our pill press? It's supposed to be here. Do we have it someplace? Y'all didn't bring it here? Okay. So I want you to see the pill press or pictures of the pill press. That's right. They are so sophisticated that some of them are pressing the pills themselves. So you can get it either cocaine, they'll make it into crack cocaine, they'll press it into pills, however you want it. It's interesting that we first start off to talk about the patriarch of the family, Odiah. Odiah Rogers is 69 years of age. And as I said before, he started his crime career 30 years ago with an aggravated battery arrest. He, over the years, has accumulated 14 felony arrests, 6 misdemeanor arrests. He's been to prison 1 time, and yes, we served a search warrant at his house, one of the 3 search warrants, where we seized more drugs, and he is still in prison. He's not made bond. Then there's his girlfriend, Teresa Prince. She's 59. That's Odiah's girlfriend. She distributes drugs for Odiah. She didn't think it was any big deal. She went to jail. Now, she has bonded out. She's the only one that has bonded out. Then there's Pop Rogers, Kenneth. Kenneth Rogers is 38 years of age. He's one of the sons of Odiah, and he's kind of now taken over the head of the organization. He's had a crime spree for the last 24 years. His first arrest was in 1999, and it was a simple arrest for shoplifting. He is the one that was arrested as a major trafficker in 2020 when we instituted a wire investigation, or a telephone wiretap as we know them. We arrested him then, and he bonded out. He's not been to trial yet on that 2020 arrest. So in 2023, April, guess what? While he's out on bond, while he has stipulations, we arrest him for possession of cocaine with intent to sell within 1,000 foot of a park. And he's got $21,000 in his pocket. So he's facing major league time for a trafficking case. He makes bond. He continues on his criminal enterprise. And he's already been to prison 4 times. So here's another clear indication. If you don't keep people like Pop Rogers locked up, he's going to be selling drugs to your kids, to your neighbors, to your relatives. And then there's Raphael Rogers, another son of Odiah. When I tell you it's a family affair, I'm not kidding. They're all in business together, illegal business. 24 years of crime himself. He's 39 years old. And he started out with a simple shoplifting charge. He's amassed 43 felony arrests, 33 misdemeanor arrests. He's been to prison 2 times, and this was the second search warrant served at his house. Raphael is a bad guy. And then there's Tamika Rogers. She's 31. She's the daughter of Odiah. She's got 5 felony arrests, 3 misdemeanors. She's never been to prison. She's currently living with Odiah, where one of the search warrants was served, and she's known to sell drugs. And then there's Dominique Rogers. He's 28, Odiah's son. He's younger than the others. He's got 38 felony arrests, 14 misdemeanor arrests. He's been to prison 1 time. But that's not all. Manatee County currently has him charged with 2 counts of second-degree murder where things went bad during a narcotics transaction. So not only does he have that occurring, but while he did that, he's also under investigation with us for providing fentanyl that created the death of a 19-year-old girl, a teenager. a victim. Now, I want you to think about that for a second, if you will. This guy had 38 previous felony arrests, 14 misdemeanors. He's been to prison. He and his family sell drugs. We are already investigating him and waiting for the lab analysis and the work to come back to tie him to a 19-year-old that overdosed from fentanyl that he or the family sold. And he gets charged with 2 murders in the meantime. Now, let me go over this again. Who thinks this is low-level, nonviolent crime? If you perpetuate that position, you're just a nut. You're crazy. You're out of your mind. Drugs are not low-level, nonviolent crimes. They never have been. But we've got people running across this nation, some well-meaning people, suggesting that it's really not that big a deal. It's not violent. It's not. You show me drugs, I'll show you guns and dead people every time. And you know, you may not think it's a big deal. You may think it's a low-level nonviolent event, a low-level nonviolent crime that doesn't need attention until it's your child that's dead. Think about that. Think about if you were the parents of this 19-year-old girl who died from this fentanyl overdose, or if you were the family of these 2 people that Dominique Rogers shot and killed. Think about that. So the next time anyone, whether on social media or mainstream media, wants to tell you that it's really not all that bad, you can suggest to them, are you a nut? Here's the 3rd generation, Jordan Rogers. He's the grandson of Odiah. He's 21. Up until this search warrant, Jordan only had 1 previous arrest for fleeing to elude, and that was dropped. So while he's lived in and around this crime spree, this ongoing crime spree for his entire life, he was never at least caught up in it criminally until the search warrant was served and we caught him with a litany of drugs. But if you look at Jordan and his entrance into the drug world and the crime world at his age, and then you overlay it to his parents, to his dad, who was Raphael, and then you overlay it to Odiah, who's his granddad, he's following the same pattern. He's living what he's learned at home his entire life. And that's sad. And he's the one that had the pill press where he was. And we believe he's the one that was pressing the pills into all kinds of drugs. The 3rd generation. So dad, granddad have taught him the business well. I'd like to point out that Teresa was released. I also have some juveniles here. 1 was charged with misdemeanor, 2 with felonies. I suggest to you that these juveniles who aren't blood relative that we can determine at this stage of the investigation, but are there living in this environment, that's also the next generation. And when we arrested them and sent them to juvenile, they didn't score out enough to stay in lockup. So the system has helped perpetuate this problem with its lack of attention to the juveniles, because they've already figured out with this arrest, whoa, they're not going to keep me locked up for this. Until one day we do for a long time, for 2nd-degree murder maybe one day, or fentanyl overdose deaths where you kill someone one day. I've also left out a couple of the other guys. They are part of the trafficking organization, but they're not the family. These guys here, They're trafficking in the drugs, but they're not related by blood. This family affair, this Rogers family affair, has been alive and well for a long time. They've been in and out of jail numerous times, and as I outlined to you, they've been to prison as well. So when's enough enough? When's the system going to say it's time that we take these people out? Now, as a side note, when we served this search warrant, we were assisted by the Lakeland Police Department and the Highlands County Sheriff's Office SWAT teams. Very professional SWAT teams that assisted us because we wanted a SWAT team on each house to keep the violence down. We were able to execute the search warrants. No one was injured. The appropriate people were arrested. And the neighborhood continued to thank us for our work. Now, they're scared of the Rogers. What I've talked about is their criminal arrest and when they've gone to jail. I've not talked about all the intimidation they've done in the neighborhood. I've not talked about one of the very few unsolved homicides we have in this county that's on 40th Street, 3 streets over, that I believe in my heart and soul they got a part of that some way. But do you think anybody's going to talk to us with the Rogers family right there? No, because they're afraid that they may be the next one that's killed. So at the end of the day, know this, that once again we've arrested the Rogers family. This time we've arrested all 3 generations at one time. But the Rogers and everyone else should understand that we're going to continue to arrest you and arrest you and arrest you. My narcotics and organized crime folks that work this investigation are simply the very best. And they've done a remarkable amount of work this time in order to do this very complex investigation and bring its culmination together last Thursday. Are there any questions?
Sheriff, would you be able to talk maybe briefly, but just about the trends you're seeing with fentanyl in the county?
Sure. Here's what I know about fentanyl. Fentanyl is coming across the southern border, through the porous border, where there's a crisis. And they're bringing that fentanyl into the United States and to include the United States, every state, and every county, I suggest in every state. And we see the fentanyl deaths in waves. So we know when there's another wave of fentanyl that hits, you know, because the market's here, they've distributed it, some die. Then it calms down. Maybe calms down for a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks, and then we see some more fentanyl or drug-related deaths. Look, this fentanyl's killing thousands upon thousands of people across this country. It is unbelievable. Cocaine, methamphetamine kills you normally over years. We start seeing people at 40, 45, 50, where they've just wore out their body, die from these other drugs. How fast does fentanyl kill you? Like that. One time. And they're mixing it. We see it mixed with cocaine. We see it mixed with methamphetamine. We see it mixed with heroin. We've seen it sprinkled on our cannabis, you know, that non-dangerous drug cannabis. We've actually seen fentanyl and other drugs spread on it as well. But fentanyl, unfortunately, is not regressing. It's increasing. We're seeing more and more fentanyl deaths over the last few years, not less.
Is fentanyl more prevalent in Winter Haven? I remember a few months back there were 2 men arrested for a man who overdosed in Volusia County, and they were arrested because they sold him fentanyl.
Sure.
So is it
No, it's not more prevalent. And I thank you for asking that question because, sometimes I have people say, well, is there more prostitution in Polk County? Because you arrest prostitutes? And I go, no, because you investigate and you investigate with energy and enthusiasm and you seek out these criminals. It doesn't mean there's more of it. It means you're identifying it and taking them into custody. The same things with fentanyl and all of these drugs. I have organized crime teams that are focused on large-scale drug operations. I have narcotics units that do undercover work. I have street crimes units that do street crimes, drugs. So we're going out to these communities because it's not just a drug problem. It's not just a death problem. It's quality of life problems in neighborhoods where people are complaining. They're up all night. They don't ever sleep. They keep me up all night. So we're fighting this drug at every level, and that's why you see this. I suggest to you that if you look across this state and across this nation, that we're in the grips. We're in the very grips of a drug disaster that people want to ignore and push back on. I can remember they didn't start recently, maybe in the early 2000s. Oh, it's not a war against drugs. Call it what you want, it's killing your kids. And then while they're trying to legalize more drugs in the country, we see more drugs killing more people. And fentanyl has come on the market with a vengeance, and it's all over the place, and it's pouring across our border from Mexico and then spreading through the entire United States.
Sounds like you're concerned that some of the younger ones are going to continue on the family business as they go on. Is there anything that can be done to sort of break the cycle so they can hopefully not continue on this operation?
The sad part about it is, you don't retrain kids that are 15, 16, 17, 18. You hope you get them to counseling and services, but that's their environment. As long as they go back to 37th Street and these guys aren't locked up, if your name's Rogers and you live in Inwood in and around 37th Street, you're going to sell drugs. They're just going to do that just as sure as God made little green apples. They're going to sell drugs if they're not locked up. That's what they do, and they do it very well. And they're making money, and your kids are dying. And if you don't think that they won't shoot you, Dominique Rogers shot and killed 2 people in Manatee County. If you don't think they won't overdose you and kill you, as we're investigating now, they sure enough will.
$140,000 worth of drugs in the homes. How large of an operation do you consider that to be? Do you think there's more drugs elsewhere?
These are perennial street-level dealers and low-level traffickers. They never wanted or never had the ability to get up to the major stuff. But so the traffic, the flood of traffic in the community to buy these drugs are remarkable. They also deliver outside the community. So at the end of the day, that is their business model. And they are business people. decades of experience myself. If you send somebody to a drug treatment program and they don't want to be there, they're not in their heart ready to get away from the drug world, wasting everybody's time, wasting taxpayers' money. They are a snapshot of the illegal business community that is causing death and a lesser quality of life for not just the people using the drugs, but for the communities around the people that use the drugs. And they don't care. As long as they get that green cash, they don't care.
Sheriff, do you find that you have been talking about this for a couple of years now, the awareness that it's not just a low-level, nonviolent crime. Do you find that the more that law enforcement is trying to get that message out there, are you getting any reaction from the community that, hey, you know what, you're right. Do you feel like people are coming around to that?
I think the reasonable community understands very well that this is not a low-level nonviolent crime. But you all know, you're the ones that cover the research, covers the activists, covers the people that think us wasting time on drug enforcement when it could be used on something better. Y'all cover those folks. Those folks that presuppose and take false data on a false basis or false research and perpetuate that. You know, that's what frustrates me, because that leads some kid out here, leads some community members out here to go, huh, it's not that bad. It is that bad. It is that bad. And I'm not telling you from some academic study by some kid who needed to get his master's degree, that he did some kind of skewed little piece of work that somebody put in their local magazine that ended up in the news media. I'm telling you from decades of empirical evidence. Drugs kill. Drugs ruin lives. Drugs ruin families. People who sell drugs have guns. People who have guns and drugs shoot and kill people. Fentanyl is a newer drug on the market that's popular now. It kills lots of people, thousands of people. Somebody watching some of these television broadcasts or social media broadcasts, you're going to have a loved one or friend die of fentanyl this year. I guarantee it. If they're using drugs and they're using fentanyl, someone watching this program will die this year. We have the pill press here. It's magic how that works. And our folks will set it up. We got the captain, and they'll set it up. They will show you how it works. It's quite a sophisticated piece of machinery. You know, they don't sell this at Walmart, at least not yet. You order it or you steal it.
They put the compounds of the drugs inside the machine, and basically it creates a tablet of whatever drug they put in there, and it can put whatever quantities of drug and that's what that produces there. And you can tell it's a very heavy piece of machinery, heavy duty, and you don't find these on any search warrant or drug investigation. They're very highly sophisticated in what they're doing in the manufacture of these drugs that are killing families.
You know, we did an operation not long ago where they were pressing the pills, the fentanyl pills, to look like oxycodones, complete with a number on it. So people were thinking they were getting an oxycodone pill, and they were getting a fentanyl stamped pill, and some folks from that operation we learned had died as a result. I think we had 3 or 4 over in the west side, if memory serves me correct, were attached directly to, they thought they were getting one kind of pill commercially when it was bootleg stamped, and it was really fentanyl. I think 3 or 4 died from that operation. But there's a press. Y'all be safe. Have a good day. Thank you for covering this. And somebody also will be alive because they'll take to heart what y'all do and say today.